Gang, welcome to another tutorial from the Golden Ribbon. Today we're looking at the jerk pan smoke animation tutorial in Blender. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so I've got my jerk pan in front of me and my nice gradient here. I've removed everything apart from this smoke. I won't go through the parenting of the jerk pan. We see all the parenting lines here because that's not going to be necessary for this animation. All we're going to need is this one circular rectangle here for our smoke. Just gonna zoom in here. Gonna press S to scale this in. Oh, in fact, let's not scale it. But I'm gonna bring that plane of smoke, pressing G right down here. Good. I'm gonna set the time frame to the beginning. Then we're gonna go into our transform properties tab, and we're gonna do a bit of transformation. We want the smoke to rise up, to go right, left, and then right, to go right, left, and then right again. So it's going to move in a zigzag pattern. Cool. And we should have, the first thing we're going to do is to set the transforms for that zigzag pattern. So we're going to be editing the X and the Y while this plume of smoke is moving up. So we're just going to add keyframes, right click and add keyframes to both X and Y channels. We're going to move about 20 frames in, and then I'm going to press G and move this up to the right, and move this up and move it to the right. About here is good. Good. Insert keyframe. Then we're going to move over to 50 and just up it up a bit to the left. Insert keyframe, and then finally at about frame 90. Or about frame 90. I'm going to hit and change these frames a bit too. We're just going to have it move to the right hand side and for it to disappear up here. Cool. So just going to go ahead and just move these keyframes. I'm just in the timeline and I'm selecting the keyframes with G and selecting the top keyframe because that controls all the keyframes below it. And we're just moving it across so that we have a more even distribution of the keyframes. So currently I have 30, 65, and 90. So if we play it now, see it moves up to the right, to the left, and then it finishes at the top. Cool. So the next part now is that we're going to set the shape keys for this. And to do that, we're just going to go ahead and go to our mesh property right here, and we're going to set these keyframes. We're going to have two keyframes. We're going to call the first one ease in, and let's use a capital I for this. And the second keyframe, we're going to call it ease out. Cool. So what's happening is that this is moving from the bottom left, so we want this plume of smoke to scale in from the bottom left also. So we're going to press ease in, make sure we're on ease in, and we're going to press tab. Then we're just going to go and zoom in. Cool. And we want to select a vertex that you think is appropriate in the bottom left. So we're just going to press A to select all vertices, hold shift and select and deselect one vertex here, and we're going to just scale all of these other vertices to over that one vertex. So I'm going to press S now and scale in, and just bring it closer in, scale in. You know, we can press S0. That's a quicker way to do it. And then we're going to go ahead and just move this in and twist over it. You know, if you want to be very accurate with you carrying it over, you can have a snap and then use, in your snap option, you can go ahead and use vertex. Cool. So that way when you bring it in, it just snaps to the vertex that you want it to. Let's press del on our numpad so that we can zoom in. And we see it is indeed covered over, and we're going to press tab now. Good. So now we have a key, we have a shape key. When we increase the value, it increases from this point on. Cool. So what we're going to do is going to add a keyframe. Let's increase the value to 1 so it doesn't start from anything. Then we're going to go over to the next set of keyframes for our location, and in fact let's make it a bit earlier, like 16, and we're going to bring it to 0 so that when we scale it in, you can see that it pops up like smoke. Yep, really nice. Cool. Then we're going to create the ease out now. So if we move out, we're going to do the same thing as the ease in, but the ease is out at the top right. So we're just going to move, we're just going to set the vertices for that shape key, but for the top right. So press A to select all these vertices. Our background's orange and the vertices are orange also, so it's a bit difficult to see, but these vertices are all selected. We're going to deselect one at the top right, maybe here. Then I'm just going to go ahead and scale everything in. We're going to press S and 0. Good. Then I'm going to press G, and we're just going to snap it to this vertex because we still have our snap on. And then we're going to press Tab. Cool. And now we can do the same thing that we did for the ease in, but ease out. So we're going to insert a keyframe at value 0, about 78 keyframes in. And then we're going to right click the value and add another keyframe. So now if we run the whole animation, okay, we see that it zooms out at the end. Awesome. So the next part now is really just to duplicate and stagger all of these together. So we're just going to go ahead and do that. It's going to duplicate and stagger basically. So we're going to press A down here. We duplicate, press Shift and D. So we duplicate this smoke plume, and we're going to come down to the timeline and press A to select all of the keyframes, and we're going to press G and X, and we're just going to stagger it. Cool. So we see that here now, the smoke's moving together. Awesome. Cool. And we can stagger it a bit closer too. Good. Let's select this one and duplicate it. Cool. And we're going to select all the keyframes, and we're going to stagger this a bit. Cool. And basically you're going to stagger this until you don't have any gaps in between the start and the stop. Let's go ahead and duplicate, set all these keyframes, and then duplicate once more, set all these keyframes. Let's take out the snap tool for a bit, duplicate once more, and move these keyframes, duplicate, move these keyframes, duplicate with Shift D, and move these keyframes down here. Noting that every time that you duplicate, you have to make sure that you're in the 3D view, and when you're moving the keyframes, you have to make sure that your cursor is in the timeline view. So you duplicate, make sure your cursor is in the 3D view, and anytime that you're moving or staggering the smoke, make sure that your cursor is in the timeline view. If you don't do that, you'll get results that you weren't looking for, you know. And then just to make it interesting, you can stagger some of these a bit more than you would usually stagger them. You know, just to have a separation in the smoke plume. Cool. So let's see if we can play these over. So we're looking. Yeah, so that's it. You know, what you would do now is that if you want some space, you delete some and, you know, make it a little bit more interesting with the smoke coming out. Go in between and you decide what you're going to add and what you're not going to add. Cool. And those that you need to stagger more to fill in the gap, you do that. Yeah. Okay, so this is basically your smoke plume animation. Right, I don't have the time to sort of fix it in this tutorial because it's a tutorial, but you'll have the time to make the smoke look more appealing, you know, as you do this. And if you want, you can always just select everything, all of the smoke, and then just parent it to an empty. And that will give you a more desirable effect. Okay, so if you enjoyed this tutorial, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, be sure to ask. I'll be happy to help you. Once it's in my ability to help you, because I'm still learning myself. But until I see you again in another tutorial, get up and design